I'm going to invite Dr. Phumzile to set the scene for us about the critical minerals that we have and how we can use this to grow South Africa and the African continent at large. Can we please give Dr. Phumzile a round of applause?
Thank you very much. Program directors, Minister Gwede Mantashe, and all ministers and deputy ministers present here, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, we don't call it that now, Chamber of Mines, Minerals Council, business leaders, leaders of civil society, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start this morning with acknowledging with appreciation Minister Mantashe and his team at the department for organizing this event and for forcing us to really consider what is the future of our continent. I also want to thank the ministers who are here and deputy ministers from the different countries for participating in this important conversation. I feel honored today to be part of this inaugural summit. I hope we will be able to define, to shape, to lead, and to strategically think about the discourse of this important sector of our economy, but in particular about how we could impact the green energy revolution. The global transition to net zero emission is a challenge and an opportunity for us as a continent in particular. It is an opportunity we just cannot miss. We have an opportunity to regain the lost opportunity because for over a century, we have not truly benefited as much as we should from the fact that we are a continent that is rich in mineral resources. We have an opportunity to create jobs for our people. We can also set the price and shape the rules of engagement, as well as strengthen our industries and drive the continental economic growth. This is an idea whose time has come. So I wish to also congratulate the Critical Minerals Summit, working together with the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy for ensuring that you have invited the experts in our country and beyond to help us understand what is possible in this context. This summit is also important because the country and the world is going through many changes. We do not have time for business as usual. This is time for business unusual. Africa holds 30% of the world's mineral reserve. Many of them are critical for the future. The products of global minerals and metals such as lithium, graphite, and cobalt will need to increase by nearly 500% by 2050 so that the world can achieve the development that it needs to achieve. So, one critical question that we have to answer for ourselves and answer it honestly: why have we not benefited as much as we should have from our minerals? Indeed, we have had challenges of leadership. We have got external circumstances that has made it difficult for us to take full advantage of our resources. And of course, we have not always been as strategic as we need to be. The Minister has highlighted the importance of having an all-African plan and a strategy for the future of this industry and what we are going to do with these critical minerals that we will be discussing today and tomorrow. The fact that we do not have that strategy in 2023 is already a crisis. And I do hope as we end these 2 days, we'll be very clear about what is to be done. We also must be very clear about the rules of engagement, because it is important that we are not ahistorical. It is also, just as it is important that we are transparent and that we encourage investors to participate in our mineral development. We have to do this in a sustainable manner, recognizing the value of these minerals and the fact that we need them to make a difference in our economies for future generations and, of course, for the current generation. So, what are these critical minerals? Minister has already highlighted some of these minerals. And I would also like to just highlight some of these minerals, as well as highlight the countries in Africa where these minerals are found. The International Energy Agency projects the global trade of critical minerals will exceed US 400 billion by 2050. And I don't believe this, I think it's much more. I, however, just want to highlight that some of the critical minerals that the world cannot do without, that are found in Africa, 48.1% of global cobalt reserve are in DRC, and they account for over 70% of global supply of cobalt in 2021. 47.6% of global manganese reserves are in Africa, of which South Africa is the largest producer, followed by Gabon. Africa has 21.6% of global natural graphite reserve, of which Mozambique and Madagascar are third and fifth producer, respectively. 5.9% of global copper reserves are in Africa, of which the DRC and Zambia produced the combined equivalent of 12% of global production in 2021. 5.6 of global nickel reserves, with South Africa, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Madagascar, Zambia, and Ivory Coast. These countries together hold substantial deposits. South Africa and Zimbabwe produce a combined output of 81% of global platinum in 2022. Mali has 700,000 tons of lithium reserves, with DRC, Zimbabwe, and Ghana holding equally substantial reserves. Africa holds 1/3 of global bauxite reserves in Guinea and is home to all rare earth metallic elements of the periodic table's lanthanide series. About 95% of the world's chromium reserves are concentrated in Southern Africa, with African countries accounting for 80% of global chromium exports in 2020. Africa is home to platinum group metals with 90% of global reserves. And I think I can still go on, as probably some of the colleagues will do so. So today, the global economy needs all these metals to produce everyday product. As such, minerals are essential for the prosperity of the global economy. With our critical mineral reserves, our continent has a potential to become a major economic role player in the global economy. And the current green energy revolution is a moment for us to rewrite the story. In this new narrative, there is no place, or should I say, we should not accept to be exploited. We should not accept any corruption, our own and any other corruption. There is no place for incompetence, and there is no place for weak leadership. Together, we have to be strong. The discrimination of women in this moment is also a risk, because it leaves out important talent that is needed for the work that has to be done. We now know that women are capable and they can play a significant role in the future of this industry. Where we are now is a moment for Africa to be reimagined, for Africa to be reawakened. While the global dependence on hydrocarbons has spawned political disruption, we have to make sure that the future of the mining industry and the future of these critical minerals leads us to peace, not to wars. We know that from African oil and gas producing countries, as well as the countries who are rich in solid minerals, sometimes this resulted in wars, not peace. We also know that in our own countries, South Africa, our mineral resources anchored apartheid. We know that in modern times, we are now bullied by Zamazamas, and the country is held at ransom by these unscrupulous operators. We know that in different parts of the continent, mineral resources gave birth to warlords. But now we have to make sure that in our reawakening, our resources are a channel to peace and security in our continent. The world is changing in front of us in so many ways because of climate change and the many changes climate change ushers in food security, in energy, in water availability, all of which affects the whole world, but especially the poor. The changes that come with the new technologies, the artificial intelligence and machine learning, the changes that come with geopolitics and the devastating wars and the spread of the anti-rights movement and the intransigence of patriarchy and erosion of rights of women that we have already seen. All these changes put together require a strong Africa that can stand on its own. So, with all these facts, with the changes that we see and we have seen in this Johannesburg, the change to a multipolar world that we saw in BRICS, this is the time also for this industry to enter the road to reimagining Africa. Our collective minerals and the position that this puts us means that the industry is destined to play a critical role in the future of the continent. Critical minerals market, clean energy, and the demand of the minerals that are needed to manage this energy transition, all of this require all the skills we have, all the leadership we have in order to make sure that we manage this transition responsibly. Our continent has been in the forefront of poverty, has been in the forefront of wars and the challenges of peace and security. We can and we must transform ourselves to be in the forefront of the changes that will impact the world and impact our communities. We have seen that in the countries that are oil producers in the Middle East, these resources have shaped how these countries have prepared themselves for the future, but also how they run their countries currently. Oil revenues have produced remarkable economic growth, national prosperity in Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and other Gulf countries. This is what we want to do in our continent at this point. We can learn best practice from the oil industry in the Middle East. We can ensure that we too secure a prosperous future for future generations. And for that, we need visionary leadership that is not just concerned about itself. We need a united leadership in our continent, and we need a leadership that is committed to the common good. We need an industry that aligns itself with this vision. We must also be deliberate on making sure that industry incentives, research and development, global supply chains, efficiencies, mile-tailing management, and the growth of the dangerous artisanal mining is not a challenge of our country. Lessons must be learned from decades of jobless growth. We must make sure that we add value on our minerals in our own countries. We cannot and should not continue to export jobs. We know that Africa is the young continent. The current generation is the first generation that has this incredibly young generation, and it is a generation that requires jobs, and they require jobs now. In mining, we have an opportunity to create jobs that will not last just this current generation, but future generation. I'm also proud of the development we have seen in this industry, in this country. This being Women's Month, I am proud that we have our first woman president of the Minerals Council, Mrs. Fagude. I am proud that we have a few women who are leading companies in South Africa in the mineral sector. Of course, I want more, but I'm proud that we've come this far. I'm proud to see CFOs and other senior role players in this industry. So if there's still people in this room who are my age, you see it was not that difficult. You did it. And you can still do more. I also hope that these changes signify the many changes that are still to come in this industry. We have to make sure that women are not an afterthought, but they are part of the core plan in order to make sure that their role is fully appreciated and that the changes we seek for our continent and for our people will happen in our lifetime. Thank you.